Did you know that we start losing muscle as we age? About 3 to 8% per decade after age 30, with the decline speeding up after 60? Shocking, right? We all want to stay strong and independent as we get older. So it's no surprise that many of us double down on muscle-friendly foods in our 60s, trying to fight off that age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia. But here's the catch. Some of the go-to whole foods we've long believed would help with muscle maintenance might not work as well for us after 60. In fact, a few could even be holding us back. Today, we're going to rethink 5 popular foods for muscle health and see why they may need a second look in our golden years. Welcome to Alanart Health. In this members-only deep dive, we're exploring muscle maintenance after 60. We'll talk about 5 whole foods commonly touted as muscle boosting, from protein-rich staples to healthy carbs, and why seniors might need to approach them differently. Don't worry. This isn't about demonizing any food or telling you to toss out your entire diet. Instead, it's about understanding how our bodies change with age and making informed diet tweaks. We'll keep it conversational and practical, backed by science, and of course aligned with health guidelines. No miracle cures or phony promises here. By the end, you'll have clearer insight into which foods to moderate, how to get the most nutrition out of them, and smart swaps to better support aging muscle. Grab a cup of tea and let's jump in. Maintaining muscle in your 60s isn't the same as in your 20s or 30s. Our bodies undergo real changes. Digestion slows and becomes less efficient, meaning we might not break down and absorb nutrients like protein as well as before. Our muscles become less responsive to protein intake, a phenomenon scientists call anabolic resistance. Imagine eating the same chicken breast at 65 that you did at 25. Your younger muscles would eagerly use those amino acids for growth, but older muscles aren't as responsive without a higher dose of protein or the right kind of protein. Inflammation tends to creep up with age. Chronic low-grade inflammation is sometimes nicknamed inflammaging, and this can interfere with muscle maintenance by increasing protein breakdown. On top of that, metabolic changes and medical concerns pop up. Things like reduced kidney function in some, higher cholesterol, or diabetes, which can influence how certain foods affect us. So the problem challenge is clear. The foods that kept us fit in midlife might need a makeover in later life. Let's explore this through 5 specific foods. Why we thought it helped. Red meat has long been synonymous with building muscle. It's high in complete protein, rich in iron for energy, and creatine, which muscles use for quick power, and loaded with vitamin B12 and zinc. For years, many of us have grilled steaks or sizzled up burgers post-workout, convinced that more meat equals more muscle. And in younger people, red meat does promote muscle protein synthesis, thanks to its essential amino acids. Why we need to rethink it after 60? As we age, red meat can become a double-edged sword. First, digestion and bioavailability issues. Older adults often digest meat more slowly and less completely. Fascinating research showed that when elderly folks ate beef cooked rare, they absorbed far fewer amino acids than when the beef was cooked thoroughly. In that study, the same piece of meat yielded less protein uptake if it was undercooked, whereas well-done meat led to significantly higher amino acid availability and muscle protein synthesis in seniors. The take-home? If you enjoy red meat, tenderize it, cook it well, or use ground meat, and chew thoroughly. This makes the protein more accessible to your body. Another study found even chewing efficiency can impact how much protein older adults get from meat. So that medium rare steak you love might not be giving your muscles all it could. Our older digestive system benefits from meat that's easier to break down. Next, inflammation and metabolic factors. Red meat is often high in saturated fat, and while it's fine in moderation, too much can contribute to inflammation and cardiovascular strain. Aging bodies are more sensitive to these factors. A large 22-year study of women over 60 found that those who ate more red meat had a higher risk of becoming frail. They were more likely to experience weakness, exhaustion, and weight loss. In fact, each daily serving of red meat was associated with an increase in frailty risk, about 13% higher risk per serving per day of total red meat. What's interesting is why this might happen. The researchers pointed out that replacing some red meat with other protein sources reduced the frailty risk. For example, swapping a serving of red meat for fish lowered risk by up to 33%, and swapping it for nuts lowered risk by about 14%. Fish provides high-quality protein with anti-inflammatory omega-3 fats, and nuts provide healthy fats and antioxidants, so diversifying protein seems to help. Too much red meat might crowd out these beneficial foods and increase pro-inflammatory compounds, potentially speeding up muscle breakdown or reducing muscle function over time. Finally, consider digestion discomfort and portion control. Red meat can be heavy. Many seniors report feeling bloated or sluggish after a large steak dinner. Our metabolism is slower at 60 plus, so a huge slab of meat that a 30-year-old gym buff might wolf down could sit in our stomachs for hours. That can reduce appetite for other important foods and lead to less overall protein or nutrient intake in a day. Not to mention, chewing tough cuts can be a challenge if you have dental issues or dentures, and inadequate chewing means less nutrient extraction. What to do instead? You don't have to cut out red meat entirely unless your doctor has advised so for specific conditions. Rethink it. Try having smaller portions of lean red meat and see it as one protein option among many. For muscle maintenance after 60, consider shifting some of your protein intake to fish, rich in protein and omega-3s for aging muscle support, or plant proteins, like beans or lentils, which we'll discuss more soon. When you do eat red meat, cook it thoroughly. Think stews, pot roast, or well-done ground meat dishes that are easier to chew and digest. Trim excess fat to reduce saturated fat intake, and balance the meal with plenty of veggies for fiber and antioxidants. This way you still get the benefits of red meat's protein and nutrients, but in a senior-friendly manner. The key is moderation and preparation. A few ounces of lean beef in a veggie stir-fry, for example, can be healthier for muscle maintenance than a huge fatty steak on its own. We want to minimize inflammation and maximize absorption, and that means we can't treat red meat the same way at 65 as we did at 25. Why we thought it helped. Milk does a body good, as the old ad said. Dairy foods like milk, cheese, and yogurt are high in protein, casein, and whey, rich in calcium for bones, and often fortified with vitamin D, all things that seem beneficial for older adults trying to keep muscles and bones strong. A glass of milk provides about 8 grams of protein, and Greek yogurt or cottage cheese can pack even more. Dairy proteins are high quality and complete, containing all the essential amino acids, including leucine, which is a key trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Many fitness enthusiasts, young and old, include dairy as a convenient muscle fuel. Think post-exercise chocolate milk or a cheese omelet for protein. Why we need to rethink it after 60. Dairy can indeed be a great food group for seniors, but there are a few caveats that might change how you personally should consume it. The first big issue is digestion. Lactose intolerance. As we age, it's very common to become less tolerant of lactose, the natural sugar in milk. In fact, older adults often have lower levels of lactase enzyme, especially if they're from ethnic groups with high lactose intolerance rates. This means that the milk or ice cream you enjoyed in youth could now leave you with bloating, gas, or diarrhea, and that's a problem. Not just because it's uncomfortable, but because if dairy upsets your stomach, you might start avoiding it and consequently lose a major protein source. A 2024 clinical review pointed out that cutting out dairy due to lactose intolerance can lead to inadequate protein and mineral intake in older adults, potentially harming muscle and bone health. They emphasize a personalized approach. Basically, don't quit dairy entirely unless you truly have to, because it's so nutrient-dense for seniors. So, if you suspect dairy troubles, tummy gurgles after that glass of milk, it's time to rethink how you get your dairy. You might choose lactose-free milk, which has the same protein but pre-broken lactose, or cultured dairy like yogurt and kefir. These have natural probiotics and tend to be easier to digest, plus they still pack protein. Hard cheeses often contain very little lactose. The aging process breaks it down, so many lactose intolerant folks can handle cheese in moderation. The goal is to keep the good, protein, calcium, without suffering the bad, digestive issues. If even lactose-free products don't work for you, ensure you replace dairy with other high-protein alternatives, like fortified soy milk or tofu, or extra servings of eggs, fish, etc., so your muscle maintenance doesn't falter. Another factor to consider is the fat and calorie content of dairy, especially cheese and whole milk. Full-fat cheese is delicious, but it's high in saturated fat and calories. In an older adult who's less active, pounding lots of cheese might lead to unwanted weight gain, particularly fat gain, which can worsen inflammation and strain your heart. Some research has noted that very high cheese consumption in seniors could be linked to worse frailty outcomes, possibly because the saturated fat counteracts some benefits of the protein and calcium. While dairy fat isn't as evil as once thought, for example, recent studies suggest dairy fats may have neutral or even beneficial effects on heart health in some contexts. It's wise to be moderate. If you have high cholesterol or a history of cardiovascular disease, your doctor might have already told you to opt for low-fat dairy. Inflammation-wise, diets high in saturated fats, like those from heavy cheese, butter, cream, can increase inflammatory markers, whereas low-fat dairy or fermented dairy, yogurt, often shows neutral or anti-inflammatory effects. So, from a muscle standpoint, we want to avoid excessive inflammation that can accelerate muscle breakdown. What to do instead? Tailor your dairy intake to your body's needs. If you tolerate milk and it doesn't cause GI upset, great. Dairy can be one of your best allies for muscle maintenance after 60. A serving of Greek yogurt or a protein-rich glass of milk after a workout can deliver essential amino acids to aging muscles effectively. Dairy proteins like whey are fast-digesting and rich in leucine. But if you're among the many seniors who can't digest regular dairy comfortably, switch to lactose-free versions or emphasize yogurt, kefir. These can give you the same muscle-building nutrients with less distress. Also, be mindful of portions. You might swap full-fat milk for 1% or 2% milk to cut saturated fat, unless advised otherwise, or enjoy cheese in smaller amounts as a flavor rather than the main protein. Notably, if you drop dairy entirely, say you go vegan or develop a true dairy allergy, you'll need to find alternative sources of calcium and vitamin D to protect your bones while you work on muscles. Leafy greens, almonds, and fortified plant milks can help. And for protein, you'll lean on plants and other animal foods. The bottom line is, dairy is a high-quality protein source that can support aging muscle, but only if your body can handle it. So, listen to your body. We want those 8 grams of protein from milk to go toward muscle synthesis, not towards causing a mad dash to the bathroom. Rethink dairy by choosing the type and amount that best suits your digestion and health status. Why we thought they helped. The incredible edible egg, a staple of muscle-building diets for ages. Eggs are often considered a near-perfect protein source. One large egg has about 6 to 7 grams of protein, including a good dose of leucine, approximately 0.5 gram, which is crucial for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. Eggs are also packed with nutrients like vitamin D, important for muscles and bones, B vitamins, and choline. And they're easy to prepare and chew, which is a plus for older adults. For a long time, athletes and bodybuilders, young and old alike, have favored eggs. Remember Rocky drinking raw eggs? They're convenient for breakfast, and many seniors have a daily egg to get their protein in. 2 eggs in the morning might give approximately 12 grams of protein, which seems like a solid contribution to maintaining muscle. Plus, eggs are whole foods, not processed, aligning with a whole foods healthy diet philosophy. Why we need to rethink them after 60. Eggs remain an excellent food, but there are a couple of considerations for the 60-plus crowd that might change how you include eggs in your muscle maintenance plan. The first is protein quantity and bioavailability per serving. While eggs are high-quality protein, one or two eggs may actually not be enough to maximally stimulate muscle building in older adults. Research shows that older muscles need a higher dose of protein, and especially leucine, at each meal to trigger muscle protein synthesis compared to younger people. That means the old habit of having an egg on toast for breakfast, which might be approximately 6 grams of protein from the egg and maybe 3 to 4 grams from the bread, is likely insufficient for muscle support. We might need on the order of 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, depending on body size, to really tell our muscles, hey, grow and repair. For context, you'd have to eat 3 to 4 eggs to reach that level of protein by eggs alone. Many older adults either stick to one egg to watch cholesterol or because of smaller appetite, or maybe two at most. So the risk is you think you're covered because you had your egg, but your muscles might still be craving more. If you like eggs, consider combining them with other protein sources, e.g., a veggie omelet with 2 eggs plus extra egg whites to boost protein without additional cholesterol, or an egg with a side of yogurt or smoked salmon. The idea is to ensure you hit that muscle-building protein threshold. An interesting study even found that consuming whole eggs after exercise led to greater muscle protein synthesis than just egg whites with the same protein content, likely due to the extra nutrients in the yolk. So eggs are potent, but only if the dose is right. The second consideration, cholesterol and heart health. We can't talk eggs in seniors without addressing the cholesterol question. One large egg contains about approximately 185 milligrams of cholesterol, mostly in the yolk. Dietary cholesterol guidelines have evolved. The USDA dietary guidelines no longer set a hard limit on cholesterol, focusing more on saturated fat, and for most healthy people, an egg a day is fine. However, older adults often have individualized risks. If you have cardiovascular disease or diabetes, you should discuss with your doctor how many eggs are appropriate. Some studies have shown that in people with diabetes, higher egg consumption could be associated with an increased risk of heart issues. And a famous long-term study in male physicians found that eating an egg every day, 7 plus per week, was associated with a higher risk of heart failure later on. Meanwhile, moderate egg intake, several per week, didn't show that risk. What does this mean for us at 60 plus? It means balance and moderation. Eggs do provide important nutrients for muscles, but you shouldn't rely on a half dozen eggs a day as your sole protein. That could backfire for your heart. Inflammation-wise, eggs are generally not considered pro-inflammatory. They actually contain nutrients like omega-3s if hens are flax-fed, etc. But excessive cholesterol can contribute to plaque buildup in arteries over time. So while one egg won't clog your arteries if you already have high LDL cholesterol or plaque issues, your doctor might say, limit to 2 to 4 eggs a week, or use egg whites more often. There's also a minor practical point: food safety and preparation. Seniors have weaker immune systems on average, so the old rocky trick of raw eggs is definitely a no-go. Always cook eggs well to avoid salmonella, but assuming you cook them, eggs are soft and easy to chew, which is great if dental issues make foods like steak hard to eat. What to do instead? Optimize your egg strategy. If you enjoy eggs daily and your health allows, keep them, but make them work for you. For muscle maintenance, consider eating 2 eggs instead of 1, or adding an extra egg white or a slice of low-fat cheese to boost total protein. For example, an omelet with 1 whole egg plus 2 egg whites gives approximately 14 grams of protein and only the cholesterol of 1 yolk. Add some spinach and tomatoes, and you've got a nutrient-dense meal for aging muscle support. If you have to limit egg yolks due to cholesterol, you can still use egg whites liberally. They're pure protein and very lean. On the flip side, if you love eggs but only eat them rarely because of past cholesterol fears, talk with your healthcare provider. Many older adults can safely enjoy an egg a day as part of a balanced diet, especially if other cholesterol sources are limited, and that could help you meet your protein goals more easily. Finally, don't let eggs be your only protein source. Variety is key. Eggs are great because they're quick and versatile, scrambled, boiled, in a salad, etc., but mix in other proteins through the day. Lean meats, fish, legumes, dairy, etc. This ensures you get a broader range of nutrients. Rethinking eggs basically means use them smartly. They're a convenient protein punch, but pay attention to quantity to hit muscle supporting levels and your personal health circumstances. We want those eggs to fuel your workouts or daily activities, not inadvertently cause other issues. In short, eggs are friends, not foes. Just make sure they're part of a larger plan and not an over-relied crutch or lone warrior in your diet. Why we thought they helped. In recent years, plant-based proteins have been getting a lot of love, and for good reason. Beans and legumes are often recommended as a healthy protein source. They're high in fiber, packed with vitamins and minerals like potassium and folate, low in fat, and cholesterol-free. For those looking to maintain muscle without eating meat every day, beans seem like a fantastic option. A cup of cooked lentils has around 18 grams of protein, which is substantial. Many nutritionists took beans as part of a longevity diet. Look at the blue zones where people live to 100 plus. Beans are a staple there. So it's natural to think that loading up on black beans, chickpeas, or soybeans will help older adults keep their muscle mass while also benefiting heart health and blood sugar control. In fact, some seniors choose to eat more beans and cut back on red meat to protect their hearts. It feels like you're killing two birds with one stone, getting protein for muscle and fiber for heart metabolic health. Why we need to rethink them after 60? Beans and legumes are very healthy, but when it comes to muscle maintenance after 60, we need to be aware of their limitations and how to work around them. The main issue is protein quality and bioavailability. Plant proteins are often less efficiently used by the body compared to animal proteins. This is due to a couple of factors. Incomplete amino acid profile. Most legumes are relatively low in one or more essential amino acids. For example, many beans are low in methionine and grains are low in lysine. Traditionally, we pair beans with whole grains, like rice and beans, to complement each other's amino acids, which is great over the course of a day. But if you're eating, say, a bean salad as your protein source in a meal, you might not be getting as robust a muscle-building stimulus as you think, because the amino acid profile isn't as optimized for muscle growth as, say, eggs or dairy. One crucial amino acid, leucine, tends to be lower in plant proteins. Studies have found that older adults require higher leucine intake to effectively stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And if you're relying heavily on plant sources, you might need to eat more total protein to get enough leucine. In fact, one study concluded that the leucine requirement in older adults is more than double the current general recommendation, possibly a limiting factor for those on plant-based diets if not carefully planned. Put simply, an 80-year-old vegetarian likely needs significantly more beans or supplementation to match what a 30-year-old would get from the same piece of chicken. Digestibility. Plant proteins are locked up in plant cell walls and often come with anti-nutrients like phytates and tannins that inhibit digestion. On average, plant protein has a lower digestibility, around 70 to 90%, compared to animal protein, approximately 97%. So even if the nutrition label says 15 grams of protein from those beans, your body might effectively absorb a bit less. With age, digestion efficiency goes down too, so the gap can widen. If beans give you gastrointestinal issues, which they commonly do, gas, bloating, that could further hamper how well you utilize them. You might not eat as much because you feel full or uncomfortable, and nutrients could rush through your gut unabsorbed if your GI transit time is off. Fiber and fullness. The high fiber content in legumes, normally a blessing, can be a slight curse for someone trying to maintain muscle mass. Why? Fiber is very filling. You might fill up on a big bean stew and feel stuffed, but in doing so, you consumed fewer calories and possibly less protein than needed. For older adults who already tend to have smaller appetites, this can mean inadvertently undereating protein and calories, risking muscle loss. Fiber can also slow down the absorption of protein somewhat. Now, fiber is essential for health, and most seniors actually need more fiber for digestion. So we don't want to avoid it, but it's about balance. If every meal is super high fiber and low fat protein, think a huge bowl of bean soup. You might not be giving your muscles enough building blocks. Another aspect to consider, minerals and phytates. Legumes contain phytate, phytic acid, which is known to bind minerals like zinc, iron, and calcium and reduce their absorption. Over-relying on beans for protein could potentially leave you a bit low in those minerals. Zinc in particular is important for immune function and muscle recovery. If you're not eating meat, which is a prime source of highly absorbable zinc and iron, you have to ensure your plant-based diet is rich in those minerals and perhaps take steps to reduce phytates, like soaking, sprouting, or fermenting beans. For example, fermenting or sprouting beans can break down phytate and improve mineral availability. It's a level of dietary attention many older adults aren't aware they need to pay when they swap steak for beans. Now, here's an interesting twist. Some research suggests that higher plant protein intake in older adults is associated with lower inflammation and even less muscle loss in certain contexts. One study in Hong Kong elders found those who ate more plant protein had less decline in muscle mass if they weren't already sarcopenic, possibly because plant-based diets can reduce inflammation, as indicated by lower CRP levels. In those with existing sarcopenia, though, animal protein was more beneficial. This basically means plant proteins have pros and cons. They may help by fighting inflammation, which is good for preserving muscle, but they may not stimulate muscle growth as strongly per gram as animal proteins. So we have to strike a balance. What to do instead? Keep beans in your diet, but use strategy. They are excellent for overall health and provide plant-based protein, which is important, especially if you're cutting back on meat. To get the most muscle benefit from legumes, combine and complement. Eat beans with grains or seeds in the same day or meal to ensure you get all essential amino acids. A classic combo is rice and beans, or hummus, chickpeas plus sesame seeds. This can improve the protein quality. Some newer products like pasta made from lentils or chickpeas can be paired with a veggie stir-fry and maybe a little chicken or tofu to round things out. Increase the portion if beans are your main protein. You might need a larger serving to reach, say, 25 grams of protein. Just be mindful of portion sizes and total calories. If you have trouble eating a lot, consider spreading protein throughout the day. Many small bean-inclusive meals. Use preparation methods that enhance digestibility. Soak your beans overnight, rinse them well, cook them thoroughly. A pressure cooker helps reduce those gas compounds. You can also try lentils and split peas, which tend to be easier to digest than the larger beans. Fermented soy products like tempeh or miso are also fantastic. Fermentation breaks down some of the difficult components and ups the nutritional value. Tempeh, for instance, is a high-protein bean cake, usually soy, that is more digestible and has a great amino acid profile for muscle. And because it's fermented, it may even have a probiotic benefit for your gut. Mind the fiber, but don't fear it. If beans bloat you, start with small portions and gradually increase to let your gut adjust. Using spices like cumin, ginger, or taking a digestive enzyme, Beano for example, can help reduce gas. The fiber in beans will actually help with digestion in the long run and control blood sugar, both positives for overall health. Just ensure you're also getting enough total energy. For example, if a bean chili fills you up fast, have a smaller bowl, but then maybe have a protein-rich snack a couple hours later, like a Greek yogurt or a protein smoothie, to make sure you meet your needs for the day. Leverage the anti-inflammatory power. Make beans part of a diet rich in colorful vegetables, olive oil, and omega-3s. Basically a Mediterranean-style or plant-forward diet. This can create a very muscle-friendly environment in your body by keeping inflammation low. As one study indicated, older adults who ate more plant protein had lower risk of developing sarcopenia, especially if they had higher inflammation to begin with. So, beans can be protective. They just need buddies, like vitamin C from veggies, to boost iron absorption and complete protein pairing. In summary, we're not tossing beans out at all, and we're just busting the myth that you can rely on a scoop of beans the same way you would a piece of chicken and get identical muscle outcomes. We have to be a bit more intentional with plant proteins. By rethinking legumes in your diet, ensuring sufficient quantity, proper prep, and combination with other foods, you can absolutely use them to support your muscles after 60 while also reaping their heart-healthy, fiber-rich benefits. It's a win-win as long as you plan wisely. Why we thought they helped. Whole grains are the poster children of a heart-healthy diet. We're told to choose whole wheat bread over white, brown rice over white rice, and so on. The reason? Whole grains retain their fiber, vitamins, and minerals that refined grains lack. For muscle maintenance, one might think, hey, whole grains provide energy to fuel workouts and some protein too. Indeed, grains like quinoa are often advertised as protein-rich. Quinoa is a complete protein with all essential amino acids. Oats, whole wheat, barley, they all contain a few grams of protein per serving, and if you eat them in large enough quantity, it can add up. A cup of cooked oatmeal has about 5 to 6 grams of protein. 2 slices of whole wheat bread might give approximately 8 grams of protein. So some seniors might rely on a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast, or a hearty portion of brown rice at dinner, believing they're contributing to their daily protein goals in a healthy way. Moreover, complex carbs are important for providing energy. If you're doing resistance training or staying active, you need carbs to fuel that activity and spare protein for muscle building. Whole grains also help with satiety and weight management, and stable blood sugar, which indirectly benefits muscle by preventing muscle breakdown that can occur with very low-carb diets in some cases. So, in many diets, especially for active adults, whole grains are considered a backbone for sustained energy and overall nutrition, which by extension supports muscle maintenance. Why we need to rethink them after 60. Whole grains are definitely healthier than refined grains for most people, but the issue for muscle maintenance is more about priority and balance. After 60, our caloric needs often decrease due to slower metabolism and less spontaneous activity, but our protein needs actually increase to counteract muscle loss and anabolic resistance. This means that if we fill up on too many whole grains, which are carb-dense but not as protein-dense, we might unintentionally crowd out protein-rich foods in our diet. It's easy to default to a bowl of brown rice or whole grain pasta because it's familiar and comforting, but consider, a cup of brown rice has approximately 5 grams of protein and approximately 45 grams of carbohydrates. To get 20 grams of protein from brown rice, you'd need to eat an enormous amount, close to 4 cups, which is approximately 900 calories of rice. In contrast, a 3-ounce serving of chicken provides approximately 25 grams of protein for about 150 calories. See the difference in efficiency? For an older adult who maybe needs, say, 1,800 calories a day, it's crucial that each meal is protein-focused, not carb-focused. If you're inadvertently eating like you did when you were younger, when you might have needed more carbs for all that running around, you could be skimping on protein and not even realize it. Another factor, insulin and metabolic response. With age, many people develop insulin resistance or even type 2 diabetes. Eating a large load of carbohydrates, even whole grains, can spike blood sugar. The body responds with insulin, which, in youth, efficiently ushers glucose into cells, including muscle cells. But in older adults with insulin resistance, high-carb meals can lead to elevated blood sugar and chronically high insulin levels. Why does this matter for muscle? Chronically high insulin can promote fat storage and might contribute to an inflammatory state. Also, if blood sugars are swinging up and down, you may feel fatigued or less inclined to be active or exercise, which is key for maintaining muscle. Stable blood sugar is a friend to muscle, and that often means moderating carbohydrate portions and always pairing carbs with protein fat to slow absorption. Whole grains do have fiber, which lowers the glycemic spike compared to refined grains, but portion still matters. A giant bowl of whole grain pasta can raise blood sugar substantially. If muscle maintenance is the goal, we want to ensure carbs are supporting activity, not being stored as fat due to oversupply. Next, recall the anti-nutrient issue we touched on with beans, phytates. Whole grains are also high in phytic acid, particularly in the bran. As mentioned earlier, phytates can bind minerals such as zinc, calcium, and iron, and prevent full absorption. For an older adult, getting enough of these minerals is vital. Zinc for immune function and muscle repair, calcium for muscle contraction and bone, iron for energy. If someone is eating a very grain-heavy diet, say lots of bran cereal, whole wheat bread at every meal, etc., and not enough mineral-rich foods like meats or fruits, veg high in vitamin C that aid absorption, they might slowly develop deficiencies. Zinc deficiency, for example, can actually impair muscle function and appetite. Now, this doesn't mean whole grains are bad, it just means variety is important. So, rethinking whole grains might mean not having them with every single meal, especially if you're already meeting fiber needs with fruits, veg, and legumes. Or it might mean using techniques like fermentation, sourdough bread, which can degrade phytate and make minerals more bioavailable. Also consider digestive comfort. Some older adults find that very high fiber foods like bran can cause constipation, or conversely, if not enough fluid is taken, can bulk up the stool too much. Others might have conditions like diverticulosis or IBS where too much wheat bran triggers discomfort. Though fiber is generally beneficial, it's about finding the right types. If a food makes you uncomfortable, you might eat less overall. So, if a huge whole grain salad bowl leaves you bloated and you skip your evening snack because you're still full, you might miss out on protein you would have eaten later. What to do instead? Balance and portion control are your friends here. Whole grains are not evil, like far from it. They should likely remain in your diet, but in moderation and in support of protein, not in place of it. Think of it this way. For each meal, make protein the star and whole grains the sidekick, rather than the reverse. For example, instead of a big bowl of pasta with a little meat sauce, where pasta is the bulk, flip it. Have a smaller portion of whole grain pasta and load it with a hearty meat sauce or bean balls, plus veggies. Or instead of a large burrito wrap, mostly rice and tortilla, with a few strips of chicken, have a burrito bowl with extra chicken or tofu, extra beans, lots of sautéed peppers and onions, a small scoop of brown rice, and a dollop of guacamole. You still get some whole grain carbs for energy and fiber, but protein and veggies dominate the plate. If you love your oatmeal breakfast, no need to ditch it, enhance it. Cook your oatmeal in milk or a plant milk fortified with pea protein, stir in some Greek yogurt or protein powder, add nuts or seeds for extra protein and healthy fat. Now your morning porridge has gone from maybe 6 grams of protein to 15 to 20 grams, balancing the approximately 30 grams of carbs in it. Overnight oats with added chia seeds, nuts, and a scoop of protein powder can similarly boost muscle-friendly content while keeping those whole grain benefits. Also, time your carbs around activity. If you do a morning walk or exercise, having a good carb plus protein meal after can help replenish energy and aid muscle recovery. But if you're having a very sedentary day, you might scale back the grains a bit and emphasize lean proteins and vegetables to avoid excessive calories that could turn into fat storage. For those concerned about mineral absorption, consider fermented or sprouted grain products. Sourdough whole grain bread, for example, has more bioavailable nutrients than regular whole wheat bread because the fermentation process breaks down phytates. Sprouted grain bread, like Ezekiel bread, may also be easier to digest and slightly higher in protein. Including vitamin C-rich foods, fruit, bell peppers, etc., with your whole grains can help improve iron absorption too. One more thing, watch out for processed whole grain foods that are calorie dense. A whole grain muffin or healthy whole grain crackers may still be loaded with sugar or fats and not actually that high in protein or fiber. They can trick you into overeating carbs. It's often better to eat intact grains, oats, quinoa, brown rice, barley, and pair them with protein rather than processed snacks labeled as whole grain. By rethinking whole grains, we essentially mean don't let them steal the show. In your younger days, you might have loaded up on pasta or bread without issue, but after 60, muscle maintenance requires that we give protein priority seating at the table. Use whole grains as a complement. They provide valuable energy and nutrients, but make sure they're supporting your muscle goals. by fueling workouts and providing fiber, and not hindering them by displacing protein or causing metabolic issues. This way, you get the best of both worlds, the endurance and health benefits of whole grains and the muscle-preserving benefits of adequate protein. We've unpacked a lot of information about these five foods: red meat, dairy, eggs, legumes, and whole grains, each widely regarded as healthy or essential in some way, yet each with nuances for the over 60 crowd. What's the common thread here? It's that as our bodies change, our approach to nutrition must change too. The foods themselves aren't bad or good in isolation. It's about how they fit your needs. After 60, digestion, absorption, and metabolism aren't what they used to be, so we can't rely on old habits or hearsay about superfoods without considering context. The key message is quality and balance over sheer quantity or convention. We need high-quality protein distributed through the day, anti-inflammatory nutrients, and easily digestible forms of food that our bodies can actually use. Sometimes that means adjusting cooking methods, like cooking meat more or grains differently. Sometimes it means swapping or limiting a food that might not serve us like it once did, like cutting back on red meat frequency or making that oatmeal more protein-rich. Another big takeaway: listen to your own body. Not every 60-year-old is the same. Some might thrive on dairy, others can't tolerate it. Some might manage eggs daily with perfect health markers, others might see cholesterol issues. The science and guidelines give us a map, but you have to pilot your own journey. Notice how you feel after meals. Are you recovering well from exercise or feeling sluggish? Are you losing weight unintentionally? Could be not enough protein. Or gaining fat? Maybe too many carbs or calories overall? Use that feedback to tweak your diet. Remember, muscle maintenance isn't just about food either. It's also about exercise, especially resistance training. So, pairing these dietary adjustments with regular physical activity, lifting those weights, doing body weight exercises, etc., is crucial. Diet supplies the building blocks, exercise provides the stimulus, and together they help you preserve muscle and strength. We focused on foods here, but don't forget to stay active and hydrated, get enough sleep, and manage stress. Stress hormones can degrade muscle. Maintaining muscle after 60 is absolutely achievable. It just takes a smarter approach than when we were younger. By rethinking these five foods, we're essentially making sure that every bite counts toward nourishing our muscles and overall health. Instead of blindly following old nutrition mantras, we're applying current science and a good dose of common sense to our dietary choices. So, let's sum up our reimagined game plan. Red meat. Still a potent protein source, but handle with care. Choose lean cuts, cook it well for better digestion, and don't overdo it. Mix in other protein sources like fish and plant proteins to reduce inflammation and strain. Dairy. A fantastic muscle food if you tolerate it. If not, find alternatives so you don't miss out on protein and calcium. Go for yogurt or lactose-free options, and be mindful of saturated fat and heavy cheeses. Eggs. High-quality protein gems. Just ensure you're getting enough of them to matter, and not so many that your doctor frowns. They work best as part of a broader protein-rich meal. Use egg whites to boost protein without excess cholesterol if needed. Beans, legumes, plant power for the win, but acknowledge their quirks. Combine them with other foods, prepare them to maximize absorption, and eat sufficient amounts to meet your protein needs. They'll reward you with nutrients and fiber. Just don't rely on a tiny portion and expect a big muscle impact. Whole grains. Keep enjoying that hearty, nutty goodness, but let protein lead. Treat grains as the side dish in your muscle maintenance journey. They're there to give you energy and fiber, not to steal the protein spotlight. Control portions and pair with protein and veggies. By making these adjustments, you're not giving up anything. You're actually adding more years of strength and vitality. Imagine yourself climbing stairs easily at 75, or picking up your grandkids without strain, or continuing to enjoy hobbies like gardening, tennis, or dancing, because you kept your muscle mass up. That's what this is really about. Food is one of our most powerful tools to shape our health in our later years. And remember, everything is connected. A diet that's good for muscle, adequate protein, Moderate in the right carbs, plenty of vitamins, minerals, is also good for your immune system, your bones, your skin, and even your brain. We're aiming for overall healthy aging. So, rethinking these foods is part of a bigger picture of caring for yourself. Now that we've walked through these 5 foods and the rationale behind tweaking them, what should you do next? Start by taking a look at your current diet. Maybe even keep a food diary for a few days and note what you're eating and how you feel. Then, identify 1 or 2 of the areas we discussed that might need attention in your life. Are you a big steak lover but haven't tried fish in ages? Maybe this week, swap one steak dinner for a grilled salmon or a hearty lentil stew and see how you like it. Do you rely on tea and toast for breakfast? Perhaps experiment with adding an egg or some yogurt to that routine for a protein boost. Small changes can make a big difference over time. If you have specific medical conditions or dietary restrictions, it's always wise to consult with a dietitian or your doctor before making major changes. But in general, these are straightforward, safe adjustments toward a more muscle supportive diet. Your muscles, even at 60, 70, 80, and beyond, will respond when you give them the right fuel and stimulus. It's never too late to build strength. So let's put this knowledge into action. This week, try rethinking at least one meal. Whether it's adding extra protein to your breakfast, choosing a softer protein at dinner that's easier to digest, or simply cutting down that mountain of rice to a hill and adding an extra helping of chicken or beans. Notice how you feel. More satisfied? More energetic? These are signs you're on the right track. If you found this deep dive helpful, let us know. Share in the comments which food you're planning to rethink, or any tips you have learned in your own journey of staying strong as you age. We're all in this together. Let's keep the conversation going. And as always, if you enjoyed this members-only content, give it a thumbs up so we know you want more in-depth topics like this. Thank you for spending your time with me today, investing in your health. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and take good care of yourself. We'll see you in the next video.